All right, true believers, it's time for the Without Fear, a podcast for the Netflix Daredevil show. I am your host, of course, Zachary here, and with me is Jesse. No, not that one.
Zach, we should mention the recently renewed, yes, we are getting a second season. We are getting more Hornhead, which is not a shock at all. The way the internet has gone crazy about this show. Everyone has been watched it, I think, except you and I. We're the only two people left in the world, but that's what we do because we love our listeners that much.
You people better appreciate our sacrifice.
Yes.
And it's like, and just like anything, when you haven't watched it yet, the internet is a freaking minefield.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Oh, so we'll dive right into. We're gonna try to take less time than we did in the intro episode.
But this time we don't have to kind of introduce ourselves. We don't have to talk about the world. Right. We can just kind of go straight into what's happening.
That's right. And we're going to talk about the episode 3, Rabbit in a Snowstorm. And we waste no time. We are in a bowling alley, and where a guy just wants to bowl a few frames.
Yeah, I was really at first I was like, and then he reacted fine when they said no. But then when they go to kind of push on him, he went crazy. I thought the flashback scene about, hey, this gun does not misfire, and then it misfiring was pretty funny.
I felt that was very comic book.
It did? Is that in a good way or a bad way?
Oh, good way. Good, not like comic booky as in like, oh, God. But no, I could solely see that kind of doing a tiny flashback, and then that, in my opinion, that felt very comic book-like.
It did, and we're right back in it. I did do a search to see if Rabbit in a Snowstorm was a boxing term.
I think I've heard that.
It is. I've heard the joke at the end. I went, oh yeah, that I've heard that before. So yeah. But once again, another great fight scene.
Brutal.
I think that if we are, and I strongly urge having a drinking game for the podcast of the year, every time we say good fighting sequence, you should take a drink, because we are going to say it off. Don't and then dry, because I think you're going to be feeling pretty good by the end of the podcast.
That's right. So yeah, that was really brutal. And then we go over. We got the credit sequence, and then we have the Beast who realizes whose kid. Well, he realizes that's Jack Murdoch's kid, and obviously he's trying to get him to talk about. Now, do we think at this point the priest what he's doing?
So what I got out of it is he recognized Matt from the beginning of the episode, beginning of the series when he was in confession. So I think that's why he talked about that. He wouldn't break the seal of confession, but he also wanted to be there for Matt if he needed to talk. So that's what I took it as.
So you don't think he knows
I don't
yet?
think. Now he might be. He may be able to put one and two together and say, "Hey, he talked about doing some of these things, and now we've got someone doing it." I do not think so. I think it is purely based on what he said in the confessional. However, maybe the confessional was enough for him to know what's going on, and he did put them together. I'm not sure. We'll see. And at this point, the people who've seen the whole series are yelling at us, going, "Hey!" Anyway.
Well, like I said, I have listened to some people do other shows, not necessarily Daredevil, where I listened to one where one had watched the whole season, one had it, and it just ruined the podcast because the guy knew what was going to happen. There was no guessing. There was no, you couldn't self-contain the episodes that way. That's why we are doing this.
Absolutely.
Although it's killing us.
It is very much killing us.
Oh, I almost pressed play. I
did the same thing, but I moved on. Beautiful scene outside the church. I thought it looked gorgeous, and this show continues to look really good, both in its the cinematography, the action sequence, all the way it's filmed. Really, really well done.
Yes, and we are introduced to our Ben Urich.
Yeah, and I really like that actor.
Or Phil. Wait, what's his first name? Is it Ben or Phil?
It is Ben Urich.
It is
Yes.
Ben, I say.
And he has been in a lot of stuff. The including I'm looking here. I recognize him from a lot. He's done the Soul Food. He was in ER. He's been in several movies. He's a pretty well known character actor. So
What I remember him from is he played even though I'm not a big movie, he was in that Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet, and he
he
played
shows,
Prince,
yes.
and he was really good in that. He had a really good presence in that.
Yeah, it's good to see him. I really like him in both these episodes. Kind of the world weariness, him worrying about his wife being in the hospital and everything that's going on, really casting. And once again, the character is well written.
Yes, and we got this really interesting scene where he's meeting with a mobster friend, and obviously this is a guy who getting each other a lot of information over the years. And he's like, he's telling him, yeah, my best advice is get in town, and so should you. Like, that's how bad things
Yeah,
are.
and he had a great line: "Stay out of it. Some fights just get you bloody." Yeah. So, but of course, Ben can't do that. We see later that he is, still, feeling like a crusader, someone who has to make a difference, believes in the press, and even though his editor is his friend and is pushing him to, hey, Ben, write some, we're fighting a battle that we can't win. Let's work toward getting more readers. Ben believes that he can make a difference.
Exactly. And I love that. I did like how we see that Ben Urich is like, he's an investigative reporter, but he had respect. Like, he reported on the guy, but didn't make it a threat. Like, the truth, he didn't attack the guy's family or anything like that.
Yeah, he showed it, and he says, I'm always going to be grateful for that. So I thought that was really nice.
Yes, and then we see another office, like how they mention how they have no money, they have no stuff. Oh yeah, and we get a little reference drinking the night before. And I do like how someone comes to the door. None of them know what to do.
It's very funny, and they kind of look at Karen, and then she talks about, you don't make enough money to pay me. I thought you were working for free for a day. And we're like, no. We were expecting you to work a little bit longer than just a day for free. So that was another great line.
Yes, and then we see the person at the door is, in fact, the Kingpin's lackey,
and
who wants to hire them for a case.
And I continue to like James Wesley. I just think this is a great character. Just really, really cool. So happy as he continues. We never say his name, and continues to be a pretty strong presence in this. So I'm liking it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm curious. I can't wait to see where they go. Where they where they're gonna, because we find out later even though he's a member of this very powerful. He doesn't want to see all the bloody stuff a lot. Find that a little later.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of reasons there. One, he finds it distasteful. Two, he feels that if you have to resort to violence, you've kind of lost in a way. He believes in keeping things neat and orderly and taking care of business. So, and I believe that his employer, who they don't like to say, I guess he's Lord Voldemort, right? He should not be named. Doesn't like that either. He wants to stay in control and not to have that kind of mess.
Right, exactly. So he's telling about the case, and obviously Matt can tell right away, no, not going to happen. We're not taking your case. I love how he's trying to do the legal. He's like, we're a subsidiary of a company. It's like and Matt's just like, but Foggy wants to get paid, so he's like, yeah,
Foggy going, if you could see the number zeros on this check, you wouldn't have a problem. I thought it was really nice, the close-up of the Cartier watch, and then we see that's how Matt's following him, is that watch sounds unique. They haven't done a lot of cheesy special effects on this show. They've just kind of implied that how he's using his powers, and by raising up the volume of the heartbeats or that, and I've liked that a lot.
Yes, and when he overhears the guy in the car, it's it's a little echoey, which is probably what it sounds like to me. I mean, and I wonder if we're gonna, if not this season, I wonder if we're gonna get any like we see or think like how Matt perceives the world, that kind of thing.
I think they may stay away from that. I know the movie did, and I think maybe they're trying to go a different way. I do think it's an interesting view to see that, but we aren't sure. We'll have to see.
And then we have Foggy interviewing who we know as an assassin, and it's like it's so funny because obviously we know the guy's full of it, and even but we see here even because one thing I've like it reminds me a lot like of bad portrayals of Watson. A bad portrayal of Foggy shows him to be an idiot, and he's not.
Yeah, and I think that our Mighty Duck is showing that Foggy is smart. He's practical. And you see why he is Matt's friend for so long, and it was really cool.
Right, and we see because we see that he's even though he wants to make money, he's not willing to do it. He could tell right away. Okay, something is wrong here.
Yeah, he does. In fact, he's shocked when Matt shows up. Saying we're going to take the case.
Right, and I made a note of that. First, Matt says no, and then Foggy says no, and then Matt says yes. Now, do we think did Matt expect him to be to be convicted? Because Matt's not the type that would intentionally tank a case, but did he hope the guy would be convicted? Is that what you think?
I don't think so. I think he was originally trying to. He took the case to try to figure out more data. To get more data about what's going on, then I think ethically he is going to do his best to defend the guy. And he even talked about that in his summation that, how we judge him is totally different than the legality of this situation. The prosecution has not proven, the burden is on them and they have not proven this. And he talks all the reasons why. So I believe that Matt, in his mind, is doing the right thing. And then later, Daredevil takes care of the guy, right? So he can.
Yeah, it almost sounds like we'll talk. We should talk when he did summation. He's essentially saying, "Oh, this guy's gonna get off, but don't worry, Daredevil's gonna get him."
Absolutely, I agree.
Now I'm because I like to watch as we podcast. I found there was an Easter egg I did not notice before. When we're in Urich's office, when Heather's like, do pieces, no one cares about crime. There's a headline on one of the newspapers on his wall that says "Battle in New York."
I caught that too, and so once again, they are doing a great job of saying this is set in the Marvel universe, but it is in the grunge, Hell's Kitchen. It is in a different part of the Marvel universe that, because the guy even skipping ahead a little bit, there's a line about in the next episode about, a metal suit or a magic hammer, right? So, very cool.
Well, talk about grunge. It reminds me, to use another reference, I remember someone describing describing Serenity, the ship from Firefly, and they said this is the ship that the Enterprise would pass by. Like the other, like this isn't the clean cut version of, and that's what this is. This is the gritty and down and dirty Marvel universe.
Yeah, Peter David had made the same point early that if they had set Serenity in the Star Trek universe and had the Federation as kind of been on this other side, it really does fit. So I think that's a good point, and that's exactly what this is. This is life goes on despite the Battle of New York, and we're seeing in little ways how this affects you, right? It was barely the apartment barely hurt by the incident, and the law office, right? And so I think that's cool.
And we also see that the new company is paying. I love this scene with the guys like saying thank you and threatening her at the same time.
Absolutely. And it is a definite carrot and the stick. If you speak again, we're going to sue you for everything you're worth. But because of your trouble, we're going to give you 6 months' salary. So a very effective carrot and stick.
Yes, definitely. And we see also some backstory on Yurik. Like you said, his wife is sick, and I wonder if they're going to go anywhere with that.
I don't know, but his boss is very supportive. The hospital person is very supportive. So that was an interesting storyline that they've, once again, this show is not shortchanging things. They seem to be not going for the cliche that, he can't help. No, he's having people. His editor is wanting to support him. They're the person, the hospital administrator, the spot, not just for the cheese blitz, right? She wants to help him.
And it shows that he probably has good standing and a good reputation in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
And so we also, and of course, we get to see Foggy practicing law a little bit, which I like.
Yeah, I liked seeing the courthouse things. I thought it was really cool. And it was, one of the things that Daredevil should be is a lawyer show. It should be a legal show as well, because we have the main character seeking justice in two ways: one, in a court of law, and two, on the streets. And that dichotomy is one of the reasons why the character works so well. So you need to give both sides.
Yeah, and so we see Matt using his radar sense to detect that one of the jurors, for some reason, is very scared when Mr. Cartier walks in, and he follows her, and he finds out that the witness is being intimidated by some thug. And I like this scene a lot because, one, again, it's a good fight. Take a shot.
Yes.
And it's a good fight. And this guy, even though this guy's a thug, he's in a way, he's a victim as much as anyone else. If he doesn't do the job, he gets killed.
Yeah, it really is. And I think this is so many people, are having to do things, they may not necessarily want to do, but they've had to do, right?
And what a weird way to get hired. There's a light in a window.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we get Matt, it's like he says, by the letter of the law, you must let this man free.
Yes.
But again, it just when he finds out the jury's hung, he seems surprised, like he wasn't. Because I'm not completely sure what he was hoping for. I mean, like I said, he would never throw a case, but the way he reacted just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit interesting as well. I don't know if he was expecting for them to be acquitted, or what they were going to do. But he certainly was surprised. Yeah,
and we get a scene after that. We get a scene in the car with the guy that used to be part of Union Allied, I think, and he's always. I think his job is just to act worried about whatever's going on every week.
Yes, and to kind of be on Cartier Watch Boy, where I go like, oh, we're in trouble. Like, calm down. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
They had some interesting lines here when he says a trail leads somewhere, and then he said, but then he gets a good one too, where he says she's just a piece of a puzzle, and he says, you ever tried to do a puzzle with missing piece? It's annoying.
Yes, that was a really good line.
So, and we get another interesting thing here, where we see the wife of the man that Karen was accused of killing. And I know this actress. She was actually on Nash Bridges, and she was in this show called The Guardian for a long term, and she was great in it. The show was terrible, but she's a good actress. Now, the reason I like this scene is because of the reasons why she's angry. She's not mad at Karen at all. I really didn't get that at all. She's mad at herself because we find out she said you should look into it.
Yeah.
But she's not and so she wants to protect her family, not go against the machine.
Yeah, I like the actress too. She was Lulu in The Guardian. Always thought she was played a great character.
Yeah, if we can, the reason I didn't like that show, if you remember, Nothing good ever happened
No,
in that
no.
show. And not even in a dramatic comedy. I mean, literally, if a character came on, they were dead, raped, or drug addicts by the end of the
Yeah.
episode. And like you knew, like, and that's why another thing this show does good. There's give and
Yes.
take. The good isn't unbeatable, the bad isn't
Yes.
unbeatable. That's what makes a good show. I watched like a whole full season of Guardian and then stopped because I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
It was depressing.
And I really like Dabney Coleman in it, but you are totally right. It is a show where no one seems to win. And
I could do a whole
yes.
tangent just on that show. Like I started watching it because I like
Sure.
Simon Baker,
Anyway.
but yeah, like I said, I love that her anger is mostly directed at herself. Oh, and then this is when next scene's when Karen meets Ben Urich,
Yes.
and he tells her to leave it alone, and he's like, they had some great interaction this episode. We can talk about then when they meet again, they keep meeting. He says stuff like, "You should drop it." Like, and then he drops how he even find out how he met his wife, and then we get a little nod, something about Karen's past.
Yes.
Ooh. But what I like is when she thinks he's given up, like he finds her at the auction, and she's like, "How did you know I'd be there?" And he says, "I didn't."
Yeah.
He says, "I thought you said it would be like I should give up." Yeah, I didn't say anything about
Yeah,
me.
exactly. I didn't tell you to give up. I told you to give up, but I didn't say I would. Yes, they have a good chemistry in a good way. I think that's going to be an interesting storyline the rest of the way. It is, dangerous, and you're worried about them, but I think it's going to be good.
Indeed. So after there's a hung jury. Matt confronts the killer and beats him up and actually gets. This is when he first hears the name Wilson
Yeah,
Fisk.
and once again, wonderful. Take a drink. Wonderful fight scene. Very bloody. Very, down and dirty and savage.
And not
Yes,
one-sided
exactly.
yet again. A trained killer, who like I said, as trained as Daredevil is, he's still a man. A trained killer would be able to put up a fight with him.
Then we get the little twist, right, that the guy says his name, and then, Healy says, I'm dead, and everyone I loved are dead. And he kind of, we had Chekhov's shard of steel instead of Chekhov's gun, right? If you see that, and Chekhov's rule, if in the first act you see a gun, someone needs to be shot by the third act.
Well, I haven't heard that, but I know exactly what you mean.
It was great to see him impale himself.
Which I've always found that weird in like stories and stuff when the guy gives up something to stop the torture and then kills himself. It's like, well, why don't you just let him kill you?
I had the same thought, but it was dramatic, and so it worked.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that pretty decent.
It was absolutely good effect.
Oh, and Daredevil's reaction to it was good too.
Then we get to see Fisk.
Our first, we've seen his hand and heard his voice. Now it's interesting because I've looked it up. Vanessa, do you know who this? Did you look up who this actress is?
Yes. So she has. I cannot. Elouette Zura.
Oh, don't even try to say. But it's funny if you look up her IMDb. One of the first things she said is it says that she's one of the most well-known Israeli actresses of this era, and she was Superman's mom.
She was Superman's mom. I remember her vaguely in the Munich, the movie, but
that's on my list of stuff to watch.
And so, but yes, she is very exotic. She comes across very intelligent, very beautiful, and you could see why Fisk would be obsessed with her.
Yes, but we only get this little teaser of Fisk and her with the rabbit in the snowstorm, and he says it makes him feel alone.
Yes,
and
it was a really good way to end the episode. I think it's a cliche, but it's true. Your hero is only good as his villain or her villain.
Oh, of course.
And so you need to have a villain, and the other cliche is everyone is the hero in their own story. So you need Fisk to be a hero in his own mind. He is doing something to protect someone or to do something. Very happy so far with his performance. And in fact, he's actually a little charming. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, with the date.
Yeah.
But he comes across very, very charming.
Indeed, and that is how we end the episode.
Yes.
And we're doing good. We're doing good on time this time. So let's jump right into in the
I know that you don't normally rate, but good, bad. Do you think better than the others?
It's hard to choose better, but it's another good episode. I'm very happy with it. It's continuing the story, fantastic.
Absolutely, and I would give it 8.5 bloody bowling balls.
Oh boy!
All right, so we go to episode 4, In the Blood.
Yeah, okay. So we start right off in a Russian prison where we meet our two favorite Russian gangsters, where we have them obviously they use their friend's rib to effect an escape, which is fun.
Yes, we should not have left him for the rats. They should not have left him. Yeah, that's a little bit gruesome, but pretty cool. We see Daredevil beating up people on, and we see it's the Veles taxi, Veles, I think.
Something like so many things like that. But yeah, and then he's beating up the brothers, and then we get him. After that, he gets to see Claire again, who I don't care what anyone said. That's freaking night nurse. Yes. I mean, she's a woman at night who's patching up a superhero. She's the night nurse.
Yeah, beautiful. Very interesting character. Was just as I loved seeing her again, and so yes, and some nice chemistry between them.
Yes, a little hint of something almost romantic between them.
So I really like that. We get more. And we've kind of talked about this, and I want to beat the dead horse, but I love the fact that, Matt Murdock hurts. He bleeds. Rosario Dawson's, Claire Temple's, sewing him up. In the other episode when he was following the guy, his side started bleeding. He is mortal, and he has to kind of support himself and do some things. Yeah.
Right. And from there we get the little scene with the Russian guys and Phil Fisk's lackey, and they're saying how because the masked man's causing trouble with them, that they should bring like they should let the Kingpin take over, and obviously the brother doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, there's some pride there. I love the line, "If you sneeze, we all get cold." And they did talk about, we've already said, if you had an iron suit or a magic hammer, I'd understand getting your asses kicked. And it was interesting. He was very quick to say, this is an offer. If you think you can handle this, you can yourself. And, because of their pride, they think we could do this.
Right. And also we get that line where he says, do you know why Fisk doesn't want to say it? Oh, I like that when he says no one says his name, and he still says the name. It's like, oh boy. And then he says the reason he doesn't want anyone saying his name is because he doesn't want anyone to know he's just the man.
And names have power. So, very good.
So then we get the scene. We've already talked about this last episode because it's really just one long with the little interaction between them. Tell them about the case, and they're saying, listen, if this is going to happen, we're going to do it this way or nothing, and she decides to go with him. Then the Russians go see their friend who Matt threw off the building, and they essentially give him a shot to wake, and again, he's probably dead now, but they use it to get the information. They actually find out where Claire lives.
Yeah, and then Claire is kidnapped, and we get this is a long... basically, sequence of Matt seeking out Claire. Yeah,
parkour. And if you look at it, you can see how they did it quite well, because obviously that's not him running up the building.
Yeah.
But it's an old school trick. You have him. That's him climbing up the ladder, and the stuntman ducked down. But this is old school technique and done very
Yes,
well.
I totally agree.
So from there, we go see Fisk and Vanessa, and they do something like I like the line where it's a woman that like, aren't you gonna offer like some grand? It's like a woman that can be bought is not worth having, which obviously impresses her.
Yeah, it was really well done. I liked. He was kind of charming. He, convinces her to go eat with him.
And I think it's an interesting choice because I'm not sure if they've done this in the comics a lot, that they made him vulnerable around
Well,
her.
they have. She's always been his weakness in the comics, at least as much as I can remember. They were already married in the comics, and she was, someone that he had great affection for. And, for the longest time, and someone's going to correct me, I don't think she was aware of his criminal background.
That probably depends on who was writing.
That's true. We are talking.
But it's really interesting, in my opinion, that their relationship is starting.
Yeah, and
we get to see the Kings, which I don't think anyone's ever done. I'm pretty sure.
And I also like the fact that so far, only 4 episodes in, that our villain is the love story, not our hero. We've talked about we don't want Karen, Foggy, Matt triangle, and
unless it could be done right, it could be.
I like the idea that this is, we're kind of seeing this once again because you want to pull for Fisk.
You almost are like, oh, I hope she gets her. Because we got to remember, because it's always better when the villains are, because we got to remember, they are human, and they can, unless you're going full on sociopath, they can love someone.
Yes, and so makes, I think, a better show to have this where there is a side of him that you like. And kind of jumping ahead, but then we see the violence at the end.
Oh, well, yes, well, we'll get to that in a few minutes, because what I like about here, we get a little, again, insight in he sounds, when you think about it, like Daredevil when he's talking about the city.
Yes.
The city's a part of me, the city, I will defend it. This is how Daredevil would
Absolutely.
talk. The difference is, and this is usually the difference between the hero and a good hero and villain, is he believes the ends justify the means.
Absolutely.
Now, right after Claire's kidnapping, we get this great scene with him talking. I love how the kids, like he said, he tried not to tell them, but he had to. But he could have been all scared, but no, he was still brave, and he gave Matt what information he could, and I like that a lot. I like it's almost like they said it. I don't know if they were trying to do that, but that's the vibe I got. That was his look. He was saying, "I'm still going to help, even though I'm afraid."
Yes, I liked it a lot. Yes.
And then we get the scene of Claire being tortured. Now, and another comic. This guy with the bat, he was in another Marvel movie. The Russian. He was He was a Russian gangster in Punisher Warzone.
Ah, very nice. Okay.
He was the one Jigsaw betrayed and sent to prison.
Okay, good.
I mean, that was a horrible Marvel movie,
yes,
but
it was there. Yes.
Oh man. Oh, and then we get this. Oh, I love this so much. When she realizes Matt's there and just starts laughing.
Yes, it is really cool. And because I think she has confidence in him, right? Is that how you read that?
Oh, big time. No, it was, and I love how she goes, you want to know his name, now you can ask him yourself.
Yes, a really good line. Because she hasn't, right? He's been Mike, the guy that kept secrets.
Right, and that's true. She was telling the truth. She actually doesn't know his name. And so, but I know it's funny. I know it's crazy, but part of me, because it would be so comic book, almost thought she was going to say something like, he's El Diablo and he's coming for you. Like, call him the devil,
Yes, that would have been interesting. I love the fact that they're calling him the Man in Black right now.
It's funny. Even the closed captions say masked man when he talks.
Which is really, really cool that the name hasn't been said yet.
Well, he hasn't named it yet. Well, obviously we know he gets the costume this season because the Netflix show, so we've already seen the images. But he said, I love when he goes, "You're not leaving." Oh, take a shot because this fight scene was fantastic. I love when he says, "You're not leaving here." First, he says, "You're not leaving here." Then he says, "You're never going to use that hand again if you don't let her
Absolutely.
go." And then he goes, "Oh, wait, how does that feel? The fear and the pain." Oh, that was so good.
It really was.
And then we get the Russian saying, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go." I like how the brother can swallow his pride and say, "I'll go beg Fisk."
Yeah, and I
for
thought it was
him."
interesting. The brother, no, we can't do that. I can't do that. But if you want to, I'll let you be humiliated.
And then we get this awesome scene. Oh, when he walks in on them on the date, I was like, "Oh, you are
Yes,
dead."
he is.
Because like I said, I haven't read a lot of Daredevil as much as I have other. I'm a huge fan of this. I know a good amount about him, but I'm a Spider-Man nut, so I know who the Kingpin is.
The Kingpin has been in many of the Marvel universes and is a villain that is used pretty equal between the two, Spider-Man and Daredevil. So you're aware of that, and you just know it's going to be bad. It's going to be so bad.
Oh god! And then we get that in the great scene. I like how Foggy barely doesn't even question Karen buying a bunch of old
Yeah,
office.
it's like,
He's like, "Oh, you bought office equipment, and suddenly you have money.
yeah,
Great!
and well,
Did I ever tell you I wanted to be a butcher?"
yes, I wanted to be a butcher.
Well, my mother wanted me.
That was a good cover for her that she thought of this, to explain why she was there. I thought that was very
Right.
good. Yeah.
And then we get this great scene with Claire where he tells her his name is
Yes.
Matt.
Yeah.
And I like this because he's almost saying he's going to quit because what is he doing? What is he helping? And she convinces him to still do it.
Yes.
She's the one that got beat up and tortured, and I love it because one thing we have to get rid of if we're going to move forward as a storytelling thing is the woman can be kidnapped, fine, but she doesn't have to be the sobbing damsel in distress victim.
Yeah.
And she wasn't. See, we believe she was captured, but she wasn't like weak.
No, not at all. I agree.
And she tells him, "You can be our symbol. You can fight for us. You are doing something for us."
I agree.
I cannot, and of course from there we get again Fisk dropping. I like how they left is now we know this is Vanessa, so she's probably going to end up with Fisk, but we don't know how or when or where because if we go just by what she says here, we have no idea what she's going to do next with him.
I totally agree. You're like, oh, what's he going to do? What's happening? And so they are creating a new world, so there's things they could do. Correct? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we don't because they seem to be trying to stay. It's a reimagining. You know what it is? I think the best way to view this show is literally a live action comic book. In that it's a new artist and new writer taking over, doing their own. It's a one shot. You know what I mean? Those kind of things where it's inspired by what came before, but it's not like, oh, this is exactly what happened. And that is my opinion. One of the things you have to follow if you're going to make a good comic book movie. You have to you take bits of it and make a good reimagining.
I totally agree, Zach. I totally agree.
You know, I love how Fisk almost and see when I heard Vincent D'Onofrio was Kingpin, I'm like, because I love him, but as King, but then I see why they chose him because he is their Kingpin.
He is, and he is mincing. He is powerful, but he's going to have that tenderness that they're shooting for, which will be great.
Which Vincent can play. Vincent's really good at mixing
yes, he is.
that. I mean, anyone who thinks he can't play like weak, like we see him play strong, but anyone who thinks he can't play subtle and vulnerable should see Full Metal Jacket.
Yes.
I mean, him. I'm a huge fan of that movie, but him, oh my god, in the movie. So then we get this scene, and everyone who has ever read a Spider-Man or Daredevil comic knows what is about to happen.
Yes.
Because for those of you who are being introduced to Daredevil just from this show, the most important thing about the Kingpin, everyone assumes because he's a businessman, he's not tough, he's fight, but because in the comics he's pretty big.
Yes.
But it's mostly muscle. He can fight, and that's what's important about Daredevil being his main hero. They're both humans, essentially, and the Kingpin can actually fight. Yes. That's the important part about it. If let's say if Batman fought Lex Luthor, Batman would clean Lex's clock. Right. But this is a street fight between two And I love, and he just beats him so bad, and then he gets him with the door. Oh, I almost looked away when his brains come out, and then I don't know how they did. This might have been not on purpose, but when the water drips, it almost looks like rain coming down
Absolutely.
the car. Oh, and then he decapitates him with the door.
Yes. And so matter of fact, gonna need a new suit.
And he says and he actually says when he grabs him, you embarrassed me in front of her. Like if that's all, and think of it, if the guy had just called, he would have been fine.
Absolutely.
And when he just mercy. I just love how he's like, that ending thing he says about the past, that line he said, and then he's like, just picks up the phone. Yeah, passenger side. Yeah. And he just, okay. And he just pulls him out. And like I said, he steps out of the car. And I wonder if that's going to be relevant later. The fact that he's obviously a little, well, who knows? Like, but, oh, God. And then he says this is going to be, and he's going to do with the body. And you think you're going to hear something, just make it disappear. No, he says send it right back to the brother. And as prideful as that, and he says it's going to be more. And we know it is.
And he's happy. Yeah. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah. Oh God! So, this episode, the ratings for me, right? I mean, just that they got what they're doing with Kingpin is new and it's interesting. I'm really it's just as strong as Daredevil, and I cannot wait to wait until they name him and we get the costume. But we got, the characters are they do so good in this. I'm very happy.
I would have I give this 9 zuppa ingles, which is basically the dessert they were going to eat.
I'm Italian. I don't think I've ever had that.
It's a tiramisu. It's type of a tiramisu. I had to look it up.
I've had
so
tiramisu.
have I. But this is, I actually had to look it up and see.
I should ask my mother. She'll know.
This is. They have done such great casting, great stories so far. And the most wonderful thing now, Zach, is we get to see another 2.
Yeah, I know. We should even try to podcast this week if we can.
We will try. Yes, I think that is a great idea. So cool.
Well, actually, once we're done recording, we'll talk about that. So why don't you? We've given our ratings. Is there anything
I
else
just
want to
say, thanks, Zach. How can they reach you if they want to give you feedback?
I would say you could find me on Facebook. If you're on Southgate Media Facebook, you can find me as one of the hosts, or just look me up, Zachary Hare, on Facebook. And, of course, my Twitter is Interim Insanity.
Okay, and I am at JWJ170104. I am also on Southgate Media's Facebook as one of the hosts. And please give us your thoughts and feelings, and tell us what you think of the show.
Definitely.
Yes, once again, it was a great discussion, and we'll close it out with our quote: "We Murdochs get hit a lot, but we always get up." Thanks, everyone.